I worked security at 2 local hospitals before I became a police officer. One of my many duties was to oversee conditions in the basement morgue. It made me a little nervous at first, but it helped that my job was simple. Just check the temperature of the room every few hours, transport the deceased from their hospital rooms down to the morgue, and process paperwork as needed. Well, one night, I was still new, and my supervisor said I had earned my stripes, and was ready to work by myself. She advised me that the officers at shift change had left 2 bodies in the morgue. So after completing my indoor patrol, I headed down to the basement to check the morgue as usual. The hallway leading there was cold and dark and maze-like, but once I reached the morgue, I checked over the body roster and I opened the heavy door to the walk-in cooler. Instantly, I froze. Something was inside with the 2 bodies. It was a dark shadow figure, 6 foot tall, yet I could see right through it, and it was bending over one of the bagged bodies. Aside from the goosebumps spreading over my arms, I remained motionless, and I was suddenly cold, more deeply cold than the temperature in the cooler. Several seconds passed before I managed to shut the cooler door, then I rushed out of the morgue, locking the outer door securely behind me. Shocked and in utter disbelief of what I had seen, I hurried down the hall to make distance from that room. Because I was new and I didn't know my supervisor well, I decided not to say anything. But after a few weeks of getting comfortable with her, I took a chance and described what I had seen that night. After my story, she smiled and then laughed. Does she think I'm crazy? I wondered. Don't worry, she said. You'll have plenty more experiences like that working in this place. Then she added these words. You have to understand, a hospital is a gateway between the living and the dead. We've all had things happen to us here. One night, sometime after my experience in the morgue, I was called to remove the body of a man who had just died. So I called my partner on the radio to meet me in the patient's room. I got there first, and I retrieved a gurney. The curtains were still closed around the man's bed, so I went over to the nurse's station to pick up his paperwork. I asked the nurse how long she thought the family would be there, and she said that they had all left about an hour earlier. So I wrestled the gurney into the dead man's room while I waited for my partner. When I drew back the curtain, I found an elderly man, a friend or brother of the deceased maybe. He was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. Sorry, I said. I was told everyone had left. I closed the curtain and quickly stepped back, bumping into the nurse who had come to help me. What's wrong? She asked. Why did you step back so suddenly? There's still a family member in there with him, I said. I wanted to give him some more time and privacy. She pushed past me and pulled the curtain open. No one is in here, see? Sure enough, the sofa was empty, and on the bed lay the body bag, zipped closed. At first I was startled. Where had the man that I saw gone? Then I could feel something in that space, some kind of presence, and I knew I could feel that it was watching. Just then my partner showed up, and the nurse left. After we wrestled the bag over onto the gurney, I asked my partner to wait a second. I felt a compelling need to look inside the body bag. Slowly, I moved the zipper down just far enough to move the material aside and see the face. I sucked in my breath. It was the man I had seen sitting on the couch just a few minutes earlier. I looked up at my partner, struggling to collect myself. Sorry, I just wanted to see. I know, he said, as if he knew exactly what I was going to say. I've had the same thing happen to me. Then his eyes moved around the partially curtained off area, and he said, Let's get out of here. We're being watched.